Hello, I'm Gary Quinn, and welcome to another episode of Ready, Set, Live. My guest today is a four-time Olympic gold medalist. He's the greatest diver in history, I would say. He's a wellness coach and activist, the dynamic Greg Louganis. Welcome, Greg. So great to have you on the show.
Great to be here. Thanks.
You know, Greg, during the pandemic, I know everybody has handled it in different ways. Have you had any epiphanies during this time, or was it just something that was a normalcy of you feeling you were creating new ideas during this time?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think that I did a lot of what most people did. You start streaming, checking out, kind of not knowing where we're going and all that. And after streaming so many series and all that, I was like, how am I going to get to the other side of this better than when it started? So then I started doing all of this work, on myself, really. And so that's been an interesting process. And also pivoting, trying, working on getting more things virtual. I created meditation in motion, which is basically the cornerstone of really all of my success. Teaching, visualization, getting in touch with our body, breathing, all that stuff, breaking it down. So that was something. And so yeah, it was just really examining how am I gonna be better for this. So I
Did you
think that's
find
something
that
that's
there were
really
any
important.
good habits you acquired during this time?
Yeah, I kept my yoga practice. Although I didn't practice today, I've been busy with interviews. So, yeah, maintaining my yoga practice. I'm also sober, so I find my sobriety. I went through the AA and all that stuff, and then got to a point where the AA, rooms didn't quite work for me. It was just too much drama, and drama can be addictive too.
Hmm.
So then, where I found my sobriety was with my sponsor, who's my yoga instructor, and through my yoga practice. And so, just really kind of immersing myself in that. Also, getting my diet, learning more about health and nutrition, and putting some things into, to applying some things. So it's interesting because I find a lot of people read a lot of books and they think, oh my God, that's a great idea, and they think they get it, but you don't really get it unless you start practicing it. And so that's something that's been really important to me, to continue to practice what I've learned.
And I think, Greg, what's so interesting is that when people are finding themselves in a healthy way and wanting to be out of any kind of, drug related issues that they might have had, I think that practicing it, but actually becoming it is
Right,
the key as opposed to, well, I'm doing this, but
right.
you really don't see the results unless you become it.
Exactly. It's a part of either redefining yourself or finding a new identity. So, my sobriety, I don't think of it as sobriety per se. It's just I'm making healthy choices.
Hmm.
And so that transition, a lot of people get hung up on their stories. So, and then they hang on to those because they're familiar and they're comfortable, no matter how much pain they cause, then they still hang on to it because it's something they know. It's
Greg,
like an abusive relationship, right?
exactly what was the epiphany or the trigger that forced you, I don't want to say to hit bottom, but to really look at my life doesn't work?
Well, I think we all go through transitions. So describe it as a bottom, I know in AA they do. But that may be just one part, a piece of the puzzle, as it were. It's because we have many experiences and that we transition out of various mindsets and implement healthier choices and really kind of living, living more in the joy of living rather than living in our trauma or drama.
And I think it's interesting. I think it's important that everybody learns how to love themselves or give themselves self love. What does love mean to you?
What does love mean to me? Um, well, what comes to mind is my mom. Love is mom to me,
Right.
because she taught me unconditional love and that everything was okay. I didn't have to get on the diving board. I didn't have to get on the stage. I didn't have to do any of that. And also, and no matter what happened, and oftentimes I would tell myself in high stress situations, no matter what happens, my mother's still going to love me.
Hmm.
And so that was a constant and something that I knew, deep down in my heart and soul.
And I think mothers have that innate, I'm going to take care of my kid, I'm going to love them no matter what, which, when a parent leaves, sometimes the child feels a void.
Mhm.
And I think we're very fortunate that we have our moms, and your mom is still with us, right?
No, she passed in '04.
Okay. So
She passed in '04. It's so funny because you can look at my tax returns
right.
and it's like, oh, that's where everything went awry, is, the loss of my mom. That was huge.
I'm
That's
sure it
huge. And
was.
then, and now, recognizing that and making that shift and also, embracing the fact that I'm not the person that, I would have been without her, so
Correct.
she's always with me.
Correct.
So, she lives through me.
And I know when you were younger, you were bullied, and there was many times that you felt alone, but mom was always there,
Yeah, mom was always there. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. Um, when you look at your life as a competitive diver and athlete, there's a built-in confidence of we have to keep going, and I think we're very fortunate to. I recognize our coaches formed some really great bonds with us. I'm so grateful for my both Olympic coaches that you really learn from them. What did you learn from your both your coaches?
Well, both of my coaches, I had many coaches.
You had many. Well, you had Sammy Lee, right?
Yeah, Dr. Sammy
Dr.
Lee,
Sammy.
that's who I don't want to be.
Okay.
That's what I learned.
Okay.
Um, and my coach Ron O'Brien
Right.
is the coach that I want to be more like.
Mm, mm, yeah. Um, Talk to me about your meditation program. I think this is so wonderful that you're doing this because you're finding the whole balance of helping people is so deeply rooted in that. What is exactly what I know you're doing meditation, you're also doing the yoga, health, wellness. Talk to me more about that. Tell me, it's really great.
Well, the meditation in motion, I mean, I started using visualization when I was 3 years old, because that's how I interpreted it. What happened, I started dancing and doing acrobatics when I was a year and a half, and my first performance on stage was when I was 3. And so what my teacher did, I had the costume. It was the day of the recital, and of course, there's a top hat and a cane, so some of the choreography kind of changed a little bit. And what she did is she said, "Okay, do the routine fluid." Put the music on and left the room. And so at age 3, I thought, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to do the routine fluid. And what I thought is imagine myself doing the routine fluid. So I did the routine. It took 3 times. three or four times before I could get it fluid. And then, without any hesitation or anything like that. So then I went to her, found her in her office. I said, okay, I made it fluid. And then she came back into the studio room and she said, okay, make it fluid. And she increased the tempo. So it was faster than what I was actually going to be performing. And she played the music and I could do it fluid. She said, okay, you're ready. But, oh, okay. So that was my introduction to visualization.
When you visualized, Greg, I know that you said that you visualized the actual event when you were diving of being there
Oh, yeah.
prior before you even did it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, that's how I would relax, in order for me to get a decent night's sleep. Not a great night's sleep, but a decent, because like, especially when you're moving from prelims, semis into finals, and then it's the night of finals, there's a lot of stress. So in order for me to allow my body to relax enough to get some sleep that night, I would go through my dives and and visualize the dives. I would make sure I knew the venue that I was diving at because we just had the prelims and semis and we'd been training at this facility. I would fill the seats in my imagination. I knew where the camera positions were, so I would fill that with the cameramen and them moving around. And so that when I showed up the next day, I'd already been through it. So I'd already been there.
Wow. I think that's brilliant for athletes, but also just regular people who want to create. What would you give as a tip to someone who comes to you and says, Greg, I would like to create this new business or a new career, or I'd like to find purpose, but how do I visualize it? What would be the first thing you would say to them?
Well, I teach this a lot to any of the athletes and performers, peak performance. I teach these these ideas and I break it down. I mean, first thing, I want them, and in my course, Meditation in Motion, it's important to me that we address this in a fun way, that it's all about having fun, having that childlike curiosity. So, and I break it down into the elements of what a meditation is. And so we start with breath. Be curious about your breath. I give exercises for calming, exercises to reset the nervous system and the skeletal system. Get curious about your breath. And then getting into our bodies, being aware, bringing awareness to our bodies, and just bring awareness to it. And we can bring awareness anywhere, wherever we are, we can bring awareness to that. And then the visualization portion, which is a lot of fun. And I love giving these guided visualizations especially to kids, because they just love it. And I have them bake cookies. Well, when you bake cookies, you usually choose somebody to bake cookies with. And I tell them to choose somebody, and it's usually somebody that they love. And so then you go through the process of mixing the ingredients. So you're talking about textures. You're adding, vanilla or almond extract, the smells, and turning on the oven to preheat, so you're going through all of these elements of activating all of these senses so that you tap into utilizing all of your senses in your visualization work to bring awareness to what, you might aid you in your visualization. And so going through that, it's so much fun, because then after I do the guided visualization, all the kids are like, oh my God, I got to go to Subway and get a chocolate chip cookie or a oatmeal cookie or a peanut butter cookie or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So I mean, it's a lot of fun, and you do it with games and have have fun with it.
This is great.
It's not how you're going to use it, because like if you teach it the visualization, the way that you're supposed to use it, oftentimes what happens is we stumble because we're judging ourselves, that we're thinking, oh, am I doing this right? Well, I don't know if and if things go awry, then we get stuck. And oftentimes it's hard to get out of that. But if you approach it like a game and have fun with it, not take it too seriously, away from how you're actually going to utilize the visualization, then you're going to find much more success and have it be much more to you.
I think also, Greg, this is so important for the young, like young kids in school. They don't teach this in school. I think somehow you need to create a book about this because this is so important. I know when I speak to kids, they're so hungry for this kind of knowledge. So I feel you should 100% plug that into, the kids of today, because kids are the future.
Yeah, yes, definitely. To have children, because a child's imagination, I mean, is like limitless, because it's not tainted so much with all of the judgments and do's and don'ts and can't and won'ts and all of that stuff. So, getting them to start practicing this. The problem that we have today is oftentimes with technology that we're spoon feeding imagination to kids so that they don't have to, create. My mind, I feel, is like this wonderful playground. And if we can encourage young kids to have that, maintain that play, that they're, what they can achieve is limitless.
Hmm. What has been your biggest challenge in this lifetime, Greg?
Biggest challenge. You know what? I think it's probably, I think it's everybody's challenge is really embracing ourselves, self-love. It's funny because like I remember one time I was doing work on meditation in motion and I was so excited about it and I shared it with my husband and he's like, oh yeah, that's nice. And I'm like, I was crushed. I was looking for validation outside of myself, and I had just finished Byron Katie's Loving What Is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, why am I looking outside of myself to give me what I can give myself?
Mm-hmm.
So learning how to validate ourselves without the necessity of having to get validation outside of ourselves. I think that that's a really important lesson for a lot of people to learn and also to embrace and have confidence in.
And I think we, as humans, we sometimes don't embrace ourselves, or we're so quick to judge. And I think what you said about the self-love is so important because people maybe don't even know what that is. They go, I don't know what self-love is. Um,
Right. And it was interesting because we had a meeting for meditation in motion, and I guided them through this meditation that I give, and it's basically, you are creating lotus flowers. So you create a lotus flower with I am, and then you let it go, put it on the water, let it float away, and we continue doing that for like about 15 minutes to where there's nothing left. There's no armor, there's no defenses, there's no good, there's no bad. Letting go of all of those things, and then really ultimately realizing our nothingness, we're actually everything. That we're all a part of everything.
did you find that during this um, spiritual awakening or upgrades for you, that you had to forgive many things. What were the main things that you had to find yourself forgiving?
Well, the biggest thing, you have to start with yourself.
Mm.
You have to forgive yourself for making stupid decisions. It's like making stupid choices. Like, oh my God, was that
Well, but
stupid?
they could have
No,
been choices that needed to teach you something.
exactly. And the choices that we make are in all choices, and it's not good or bad. It just is. So in making those choices, what do we take from the choices that we make for ourselves? And we can, kind of check in with ourselves, check in with how we feel. Okay, does that feel good or does that feel bad? And that's all it is do you feel good or do you feel bad?
Well,
If it feels bad, then yeah, maybe that doesn't work for me. But it
what's so
feels good.
interesting, I found that over the years with all the spiritual work I've done, there's always an onion where I go, oh, I need to forgive that. I didn't realize I had to forgive that. So I think it's a constant evolution of forgiveness. I don't think you just do it all in one weekend and you're healed.
Oh, yeah, no.
It's a
No,
process.
it's an ongoing process, because oftentimes, like, trauma can be deep seated. So if you go through a trauma, it's like, oh my God, I thought I was done with that. And then it rears its ugly head. And it's like, oh, well, I thought I dealt with that. But it may be dealing with it in a different way, from a different angle, from a different light, So then, really, the key is practicing non-judgment. Not it is what it is, and it's like, okay, I'm having these feelings. What are these feelings? Getting in touch with those feelings, um, figuring out, does this serve me or does this not serve me? Is there a lesson to be learned, or is this something that I can let go?
Mm, mm, very true. Imagine if the world was living in love without any judgment.
Yeah, I mean, then we wouldn't have we wouldn't we wouldn't have issues with the climate. We wouldn't have issues with politics. We wouldn't have issues because that's ultimately that's all we are,
Mm,
is love. But we need to recognize it and be in line with that.
mm,
Be in alignment with it, and not fight it.
mhm,
And the only way that we're going to get there is through non-judgment.
mm. What inspires Greg?
What inspires Greg? My dogs.
Their animals are
they're
beautiful.
they're my teachers. I
Uh-huh.
mean, because they're so pure, and they don't hang on to grudges, and they're loving, and they're my teachers.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what's so great about animals, Greg? I have this with cats, dogs, wherever I go in the world. My friend calls me the animal whisperer because they'll be barking and then they see me and they come and they sit next to me and they just meditate. They don't speak. I'm like, hello, dog. Hi, nice to see you. But it's just such a loving energy. And I love animals because they give you such a warmth, there's no judgment.
Right. Yeah. And also too, I mean, they're responding, as we all do. We all attract. We're, vibrational beings, So in that vibration, in that frequency, what is attracted to you, and that's I have that experience. It was funny because, like, this one time I was hiking with some friends and we come across a rattlesnake. It's like, oh, cool, and so I was just kind of hanging out and admiring this beautiful snake, and made sure that the dogs were safe first, of course. But and one of my friends said, "Oh my God, you're talking to the snake." I'm like, well, in a way you are, but you're communicating that, without words, that, you mean them no harm.
I love it. So, Greg, are you teaching the program online, or will you be doing it in person?
No, you can go online. It's available, meditation motion, MIM thinkific.com. And yeah, so it's an ongoing process. It's in various tiers.
Mm-hmm.
So if if you want me personally, then it's a little higher price, but you can do the course. It's pretty thorough.
Okay.
So you can go through the course with not necessarily with me, but I also encourage people, if you're on there, have questions, reach out. I'm there.
Give me a tip. What can you tell someone who needs to learn how to love themselves more? What's the first thing they can do?
To not judge others.
Got it.
Not judge others, not judge yourself. I mean, if we stop judging others, don't participate in gossip. Drama. Don't get involved. And talk to people, not about people.
Mm-hmm. In one word, how would you describe your career in diving, your Olympic, let's say, achievements, competition? What's the one word you learned from all of that?
Okay, the word that I learned from all of that. Yeah, you can't sum it up in one word.
How about two words?
Well, I'm a firm believer you don't achieve greatness on your own. There's always somebody there, whether it's a supportive parent, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coach. And really who I attribute so much of my success to is my coach, Ron O'Brien. I mean, I couldn't have done all of the things that I did without him, without his guidance, without his support. I wouldn't even know those records even existed because it wasn't a part of who I was. I'm a performer. I'm not a competitor. So the one thing that my coach Ron O'Brien told me is people are gonna forget what you did, but they aren't gonna forget the records that you leave behind. And so then he structured, what those records would be, what those records might look like. Breaking 700 on 3-meter springboard, then breaking 700 on 10-meter platform, and medals, national titles. I didn't know, the number of national titles. I beat Cynthia Potter's record for national titles for diving, and then I went on and almost broke, I think Tracy Calkins' national titles she was in swimming, but in aquatic sports. So I got 47 national titles, world championships, Pan American Games, all of those things. I really didn't have my sights set on results. It was all about the performance and doing the best performance that I potentially could give at that moment in time.
Well, I want to thank you, Greg. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and I think you are inspiring a whole group of new people, and I hope that they check out your new program on your website or on Instagram. But I want you to know that you are loved, you are enough, you are whole, and you continue to just glow. And that's
well, thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So thank you so much, Greg, and I look forward to seeing you in the near future.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you too.
I'm Gary Quinn. Join me for another episode of Ready, Set, Live. Until next time.